I used to believe being invisible was the safest thing I could do. Stay small, keep my head down. Nobody pokes the wound. That was the plan. Then, one stupid spill at the Silver Marquee turned my whole life inside out in less than 10 minutes. My name is Elena Park, and this is how a waitress destroyed a billionaire, and in the process remembered who she was. I worked at the Silver Marquee, a place that smelled like lemon oil and expensive perfume, where chandeliers flashed like tiny interrogation lights and the menus looked like little novels. It was the kind of room stitched together by status, where a single bottle of wine could buy a month's rent, where voices were velvet and faces were practiced. For 8 months, I moved through it like a shadow. Black dress, pressed hair in a tight bun, smile, measured speech economical. I learned to be efficient and invisible, the perfect background for someone who didn't want anyone to ask about their past. Because I had a past that bruised and disappearing felt like surviving. Before the apron, I had 2 degrees and a head full of plans. 1 degree in investigative law, another in public health. Strange combo, but I liked knowing how systems broke and how bodies healed. Then, everything came apart. I trusted wrong people. I watched an ideal get chewed up by greed, and I left because I had to breathe. The Marquee was a hiding place. Safe, anonymous, steady, until Marcus Hale walked in. Marcus Hale was the sort of man who entered a room and made the air want to apologize. He had a tailored walk, salt and pepper hair combed like currency, and a laugh that sounded exactly like billionaires' laughs do in movies. Practiced, contagious, weaponized. 3 guests with him. 2 men in suits that could have paid my student loans and a woman whose jewelry chimed when she gestured like coins announcing arrival. Our manager, Tom Reynolds, straightened everything from his posture to the table settings. "They'll need perfect service," he said, and his eyes said, "Do not mess this up." You ever get this cold, slick feeling that something is going to undo you? That night I had it. It's a small electric panic that lives behind your ribs. I kept my distance. Took care of the corner tables, refilled the waters nobody asked questions about, and watched the center stage where Hale sat commanding. Then James, the senior server, came running. He'd spilled wine down the front of his shirt in the kitchen. His voice was a whisper that had no business being so loud. "Elena, can you cover table 3 5 minutes just water? Don't talk. Don't anything." I wanted to say no. I wanted to keep my distance. But I took the crystal pitcher and walked toward the chandelier toward the table that said, "You matter more than everyone else." I was steady. Years of service taught me how to calm my hands when my heart is a drum. I poured the first glass. The woman with the diamonds smiled like a bird spotting seed. Then I moved to Marcus Hale's glass, and he leaned back to punctuate a point, his elbow knocking my arm. The pitcher tipped. 3 drops hit his sleeve. Time didn't so much stop as rearrange itself. He looked down, then up, and the look he gave me was not annoyance. It was disgust. Lethal, small, precise. "Are you kidding me?" he said, and the sentence folded the whole dining room in. I mumbled the trained apology. "I'm so sorry, sir. It was an accident. I'll get—" He cut me off with a laugh that had no humor. "Do you have any idea how much that suit costs? $15,000, maybe more. You probably dropped out of school, huh? Couldn't cut it. Now you're here spilling on people who actually matter." He said it slow, like teaching a child what their place was. The table inhaled. My face felt like it was burning every eye a camera. For 8 months, I'd let looks and words slide off me like water. I'd made myself small because small keeps you safe. But small had become a kind of prison. I felt something in me snap, a brittle, necessary break. I set down the pitcher on the table with my hand not shaking. I lifted my chin. "You asked if I dropped out," I said, and my voice came out not like a whisper but like a verdict. "I didn't. I have 2 degrees. I studied law, corporate fraud, and public health. I speak 4 languages fluently: English, Korean, Spanish, and French. And believe me, I can pronounce things better than you can." The room went quiet, the way a held breath goes quiet. Marcus Hale's laugh died in his throat. His face lost color. The investor to his left leaned forward, suddenly interested. Then I pushed. Not to be cruel, but because someone needed to be honest in that space. Since you chose to humiliate me, I said, let me tell your guests what they're about to buy into. I told them about Robert Quan Marcus Hale's former partner who'd been promised sky-high returns on a waterfront project that never existed. I told them that when Quan complained, attorneys tied him up, threatened his family with rumors leaked false health scares, forced a settlement with an NDA that read like a gag order. I recited case numbers, the settlements, the way the funds were shuffled into offshore accounts. I spoke in English then, in Spanish to one investor who'd clearly been glossing over the details, then in French to a man who'd been smiling a moment ago. I didn't guess. I had seen the paper trail when I worked at a firm doing audits. I had read the filings that proved numbers were cooked contracts, forged disclosures hidden. Marcus Hale tried to interrupt, tried to laugh it off, stand up and shout a command. Sit down, I told him. He sat. Maybe it was shock. Maybe he realized the people at his table were not going to be entertained by his bluster any longer. The two investors stood almost at the same time. One pulled out a phone and dialed. The other closed his briefcase. The woman with the diamonds folded her napkin slowly and said, "Thank you," to me, her voice small in a way that held a storm. The din of silverware and low conversations collapsed into a silence that felt like legal summons. Marcus Hale's face went from red to white to something hollow. He gathered his jacket, hissed a final promise at me, "You'll regret this," and stormed toward the door. Tom, the manager, stepped in front of the exit and looked at him like a judge might. "We don't serve criminals here," he said flatly. "Please leave." He left. The place exhaled slowly. My hands were shaking now, but not just from adrenaline. People were whispering, phones were out, someone had already started recording. My manager called me to his office, and I walked in expecting a firing, humiliation, the end of my shift, and my last paycheck. Instead, he sat me down, and he laughed. 20 years, he said, shaking his head. 20 years of this business, and I've never seen anything like you. I expected a lecture about decorum. I got a job offer. I got a call 10 minutes later from a lawyer with the Financial Oversight Commission saying, "We need to talk." Within an hour, messages. From reporters, from law firms, from investment groups, even a text from someone offering me my old career back. Someone left a tip, $20,000, folded inside a card that said, "For your courage." My knees went weak. I walked out of the marquee that night with my bag over my shoulder and my phone buzzing like a beehive. For 8 months, I had convinced myself that shrinking was protection. But standing there watching the city lights wipe the ceiling of the cab, I realized the truth. Silence feels safe, but it's a prison. Speaking does not guarantee victory. It can cost you a job, a friendship, safety. But it can also free other people who are being crushed under the same machinery. I am not a martyr. I am a woman who remembered she knew how to look up. I am Elena Park. I used to be a lawyer, I used to be a health advocate, and for 8 months I was a waitress trying to breathe. That night I used the only weapons I had left, my memory, my education, my voice. And it was enough. So here's what I want to ask you. What would you have done in that room? Would you have stayed silent because it's safer? Or would you have risked everything to speak? Where have you seen people written off because of a uniform or a name or a neighborhood? Drop a comment. Tell me if I was right or wrong. Tell me about the time someone surprised you or the time you surprised yourself. If you've ever been underestimated, tell that story. I want to read it. And if this hit you, share it, because maybe someone out there needs the reminder that being quiet is not the only way to survive.